Okay, so, Kite, I had an overlapping Sanderson observation this week. So I'm going to put on my Charlie Day meme hat for a moment. At the time of recording, we are getting ready for our Elantris Part 2 live stream in the next couple of days. And I was taking note of the mysterious lake that the main characters found and its religious significance and so on. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
And then I realized that there seems to be a lake of note in Mistborn, the lake that epigraph man Alendi describes in the first book, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then there seems to be some degree of focus on the Pure Lake in Way of Kings.
Sanderson likes lakes.
So it would seem. No, I think there's
No.
something there, but I don't know what to do with it.
A lot more, yeah.
Oh, yes, I did think I know what to do with it. The lake was where they put the guy in Elantris and he, disappeared, right?
Mm-hmm.
The word ascension invokes some kind of elevation.
Mm-hmm. From one plane to another.
Yeah, which is not unlike death. Many people think of death as some sort of elevation to a higher plane.
Mm-hmm.
Is the lake the well? A well is what we draw water from.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something here, but I don't have all the pieces. What do you think?
I see it, and I go, ugh! I wish I had the answers. It's so frustrating. All of the things connecting. There's so many years ahead of us of putting all of this together. I know we could go online and read it, but that's not what we're about.
Yeah, no, not gonna do that
We're
at all.
finding out for ourselves. That's what we're enjoying. We're enjoying the frustration of not knowing and seeing but not seeing. Just going, "Ooh." And then we
Yeah,
have to carry on reading.
yep. And so on we go. We get a very nice chapter. We get a date with Sazed and Tindwyl.
Yeah, secondary romance. I'm
Yay.
happy for it. Yeah.
Me too.
We have young romance and now we've got middle-aged romance.
Yes.
I like it.
So Ellen's part was really good. I have never been more certain than ever that Ellen is going to die in this book.
Oh!
So please put that in the prediction log.
Oh no. Okay. Okay, I didn't feel this, but I feel like I'm gonna just agree with you because if you're so certain, you have good reason. Okay.
What does any story do with a character who completes his arc so
You're
fully?
done.
You're
Yeah,
done. They die.
you never live happily ever after.
No.
Gosh. Okay. So, okay, here's me typing it.
Okay.
Ellen dies in this book. Ah! I'm not happy.
I'm so sorry.
It's as if it's happened already. Stop.
Oh no.
Okay. Laugh he doesn't. No, I won't laugh, but
I
does
won't
in the
laugh.
next chapter.
Oh, that would be so aggravating.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that said, hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kite.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read through, and today we will be covering Chapter 37.
Chapter 37!
I'm imagining the title spinning and spinning and spinning, going down the well.
And so I come to the focus of my argument. I apologize. Even forcing my words into steel, sitting and scratching in this frozen cave, I am prone to ramble.
We know!
We do.
Thanks, Quan! Come to the focus.
Yeah. Did we always know it was a frozen cave, though?
I don't know if we knew it was cold. No. We just knew it was I guess we knew it was unpleasant.
Okay. I feel like this subtly affirms that he may have gone with them on their way to the Well of Ascension, and it was during that trip that he might have left. Like maybe he's pretty close to the well and to the rest of them, as he's writing
That means that
this.
okay. I was gonna say, ooh, that means that Vin's been close. It's like, no, that Sazed was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how? Well, no, because then the question is, how did that metal slab get to the conventicle of Saren? Because, well, I guess if they
Yeah, it's
had
not in a
pine tree,
cave.
yeah, but I guess if they had pine trees, pines, it snows where there are pines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
In the pines where the sun don't ever shine. Yeah. But yeah, frozen cave, so that stood out to you. But no, I'm hoping that this means that our next epigraph is going to actually say something of interest
Damn well
because
better.
he's like I'm coming to the focus of my argument. Okay, where's the focus? Like, but so far all we've done is lament that Alindi wasn't the hero of ages. Tell me what else there is here.
Yes, please. Either tell us what happened, tell us specifically what made you think he wasn't, or tell us the prophecies.
Yes,
Please.
and we don't get that in this chapter either.
No.
I thought that once we got to Sazed and Tindwell doing their nerdness, we would get something, but it's still withheld. We got tidbits here, but again, we're not hearing about this. We still don't know what Quan has written completely.
Yep. Although, well, we'll get into it. Sazed glanced at the window shutters, noting the hesitant beams of light that were beginning to shine through the cracks. Morning already? We studied all night? It hardly seemed possible. He had tapped no wakefulness from a bronze mind, yet he felt more alert, more alive than he had in days. 'Cause he's having fun with his girlfriend.
He is. He's nerding out, and she is the source of his energy. His feelings for her are the source, and his feelings for the knowledge.
Yep. I guess you could say Sazed and Tindwell can go at it all night long.
They
Studying, of
can.
course.
They nerded out hard.
Tindwell sat in the chair beside him. Sazed's desk was filled with loose papers, 2 sets of ink and pen waiting to be used. There were no books. Keepers had no need of such. Could you imagine? Okay, so they're probably just like sitting in chairs across from each other, like with their eyes slightly lifted. Like,
Glazed. Yeah.
yeah. Must be
And
such a
there's like
weird
these,
thing to see.
yeah, there's just this pausing and then okay. But the thing is that's them. That's them being keepers together. That's quite cool. That's
Yeah,
because they're generally the only ones that are able to do that in the company. They're the only keeper. Usually keepers just come in one. so so them being together doing keeper things is it's great to have. Great
indeed.
moment. Ah,
Tindwell said, grabbing a pen and beginning to write. She didn't look tired either, but she had likely dipped into her bronze mind. Sazed watched her write. She almost looked young again. He hadn't seen such overt excitement in her since she had been abandoned by the breeding masters some 10 years before. On that day, her grand work finished, she had finally joined her fellow keepers. Sazed had been the one to present her with the collected knowledge that had been discovered during her 30 years of cloistered childbirth.
okay. So we get a little idea of okay how they know each other, how well they know each other. What was their relationship before?
Yes.
What was his involvement? What's his significance? And he's quite significant because he gave her the collective knowledge.
Yeah, well, the next line we're about to get into is a big lore drop,
Mhm.
but for the time, yes, we're getting the Sizwell history.
Siswell. I like it.
Thank you. I think it's better than Tinzed.
Yes.
Can't believe I said Siswell. Or What? Oh, God.
Siswell. I thought you would say Sindwell, but I think Siswell is better.
Agreed. It hadn't taken her long to achieve a place in the Synod. By then, Sazed had been ousted from their ranks. Sazed was on the Synod?
Yeah, and then you'd been chastised and thrown aside for being a naughty, naughty boy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Cool rebel Sazed.
Yeah. Now, I gotta say, this book is going, in the last couple of chapters, very deeply into Sazed's low feelings of self-worth. And I'm like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
dude,
Mm-hmm.
uncool. You're awesome.
Yeah, but that's how he's been. I get it. It's not out of the blue. I feel like this guy doesn't know what doesn't know his strength,
Yeah.
doesn't know his value. He's worried about being too much into himself or too confident.
Tyndall finished writing.
The passage is from a biography of King Wednegon. He was one of the last leaders who resisted the Lord Ruler in any sort of meaningful combat.
I know who he was. She paused.
Of course.
She obviously wasn't accustomed to studying with someone who had access to as much information as she did. She pushed the written passage over to Sazed. Even with his mental indexes and self-notes, it would be faster for her to write out the passage than it would be for him to try to find it with his own coppermines.
I like that note there, that explanation, because it's like, yeah, okay, we don't know how keepers keep when it comes like the practicalities of being a keeper with another keeper around.
Yeah.
So I like that little addition there.
In a small way, I think it's written through the lens of Sazed finding the interaction endearing.
Yes, the immediately with the way that she reacted, he's like, I know, and him noting what her reaction was like, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that him of him noticing what they're doing, just them being keepers together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the companionship Sazed's looking for.
Which it makes me think of Vin, like Vin wanting to be with a Mistborn, being in the presence of a Mistborn, longing for just
Oh, wow.
Mistborning.
That's
It
wonderful,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's the same sort of thing. This companionship that he's getting with somebody who has the same abilities as him.
That's a wonderful insight.
Mm.
I spent a great deal of time with the king during his final weeks. He seemed frustrated, as one might imagine. His soldiers could not stand against the conqueror's Kolos, and his men had been beaten back repeatedly ever since Felspire. However, the king didn't blame his soldiers. He thought that his problems came from another source: food. So, at this point, you know automatically that this is building to an affirmation of Vin's insight from the previous chapter. Not 36, but the chapter in which she discussed with Sazed her assumption of what the deepness was.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do with this chapter. We're not going to get the prophecies. We're just going to get them going into a little bit about what the deepness was. But for me, I'm like, okay, I was already convinced with Vin before, but I guess they need to find evidence that's true. And so the conqueror, right, and his Kolos, that is now, it's not Alendi. This
Right, it's
is
Rashek,
Rashik. The conqueror has, like, I want to know where the
I
hell the Kolos
assume.
came from. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. It's not Alendi with Kolos.
Yeah, well, I wrote in my notes, it's noteworthy that the Lord Ruler is using the Kolos here.
Hmm.
Very specifically.
And he's called the Conqueror at this time
Yeah, well, he has
because
not
he
yet
isn't the
conquered the
Lord
world.
Ruler yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't rule everything yet.
Yes. He mentioned this idea several times during those last days. He thought that if he'd had more food, he could have held out. In this, Vednagon blamed the deepness, for though the deepness had been defeated, or at least weakened, its touch had depleted Darrell Nye's food stores. His people could not both raise food and resist the conqueror's demon armies. In the end, that was why they fell. There are a couple of very important things in there to
Mm-hmm.
call out. The way it talks about it is in line with Vin's insight about how Alendi wrote about the deepness. It
Mm-hmm.
destroys everything it touches. Weapons are powerless before it.
Useless. Yeah.
So it makes me wonder a little bit why folks were so quick to wipe away the mist was the deepness theory. But I
Mm.
have to remember that this history has been all but lost. So, like, noble philosophers, rather than keepers, wouldn't be able to necessarily call upon this bit of text.
Yeah. All that is here is just a line that though the deepness had been defeated or at least weakened, that kind of line would never be found in approved texts
Right. Well,
because the deepness is defeated, gone. That's it.
yeah, well, that's actually what had that line, or at least weakened. I wonder if that's a little too glaring of an inclusion by Sanderson here or not.
Mm.
What do you make of that?
Glaring, too glaring for who? Because it would be too glaring for the keepers. I'd be like, how did you not notice that? But
Yeah.
for
Well,
us now, I'm okay with it, us knowing this.
yeah, I mean, that's just it, is
Mm.
how would the keepers have not had note of this long ago? Like, why isn't it still in question more widely, at least among the keepers, whether or not it had been defeated or weakened? There was skepticism that feels like it's way more important. Now, I expect the keepers to remember every book at all times? No, but
Mm. Mm.
that just that one line, or at least weakened, there's something there. And I obviously haven't read the full book, so I can't
Mhm.
speak about the line in hindsight, but it feels so on the nose to me right now, I think.
As we discuss this, though, I think of explanations for it, right? So we've had the idea of the synod and Sazed being ousted and things like that. So there's been their own culture around this that could have also been restrictive.
That's true.
And also just remember, so imagine we have a huge library and that's our access and we are librarians, me and you, and we maintain this whole place. And yeah, we nerd out a lot over the library, but there's one book and one page and one line that tells us something that we really needed to know. One out of the whole library. So it makes it's plausible to me that this is nobody's been looking for this. Nobody's looking for this particular thing. And we don't have Google. They have to literally read everything
That's true.
to
And
find it.
and
Yeah.
clearly the mist didn't go away
Yeah.
after the deepness was defeated. So
Mhm.
I can understandably imagine someone of the time saying, well, it's still here. It doesn't seem as bad now, but it is still here. So,
But we can still live and
yeah.
eventually a new normal evolves.
Yeah.
And there is the explanation of lost knowledge. As much as the keepers have kept as much as they can, that doesn't mean that it's complete. It's they're lucky to have what they have.
But at the same time, I do kind of like this idea of the Lord Ruler being successful in
Mhm.
wiping away all mention of the possibility that he wasn't successful
Yeah.
entirely, because that to me almost makes the revelation that he wasn't more alarming.
Mm.
Like, it's one thing to study to discover that the deepness was the mist, but if you're so confident that it was defeated and then there's no record of it having only been weakened, or possibly only weakened, the revelation that it is also back, especially with what Sanderson has been building upon so far in this book. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling now, I think.
It's great.
Yeah.
I think we're enjoying it. I think we're actually doing is we're happy about it. This is an exciting moment to that's why
Yes.
Tyndall's like, ah, so she puts it down. This is a very important thing.
Yeah. Sazed nodded slowly. How much of this text do we have?
Not much. 6 or 7 pages. This is the only section that mentions his deepness.
Sazed sat quietly for a moment, rereading the passage. He looked up at Tyndwell. You think Lady Wynne is right, don't you? You think the deepness was the mist. Tindwell nodded. I agree. At the very least, what we now call the deepness was some sort of change in the mist.
And your arguments from before?
Proven wrong. By your words and my own studies. I did not wish this to be true, Tindwell. That was another thing that I really like. We're about to get into it, but this distinction between wanting something to be true and fearing it to be true.
Yeah. You have to figure it. Either way, you need to know the truth. What you do with that truth and what it means comes afterwards. You need to find it, though. So you have to be brave enough to look for the truth, because the truth might not be what you want it to be.
Yeah. I did not wish this to be true, Tindwell. Tindwell raised an eyebrow.
You defied the synod again to seek after something you didn't even want to believe?
There is a difference between fearing something and desiring it. The return of the deepness could destroy us. I did not want this information, but neither could I pass by the opportunity to discover it. And it does say that they're looking into each other's eyes, and Tindwell looks away.
It's very important because it's like it's intimate. Ooh. And he's saying there's a difference between fearing something and desiring it, you see? Does he fear her?
Yeah, which plays into his thought later about whether or not he's afraid of a very specific possibility happening that night,
Mhm.
a choice he's about to make. So that
Yeah.
works.
Mhm. But then Tyndall looks away. Woo-hoo-hoo. I do not believe that this will destroy us, Sazed. You have made a grand discovery. That I will admit. The writings of the man Quan tell us much. Indeed, if the deepness was the mists, then our understanding of the Lord Ruler's ascension has been enhanced greatly.
And if the mists are growing stronger? If by killing the Lord Ruler we also destroyed whatever force was keeping the mists chained?
We have no proof that the mists are coming by day. And on the possibility of them killing people, we have only your hesitant theories.
So, is it worth it? Is it worth killing the Lord Ruler if you know? Because they didn't know. But if you know that doing so brings back the deepness. Well, that's literally what's happening with this book. It's the tyrannical safety or scary freedom all right there.
Mm-hmm. But we could enslave the Lord Ruler and make him keep the deepness at bay. But okay, but then symbolically even, okay, so we do have that safety of the deepness being chained by the Lord Ruler, right? The sun is still not what it used to be. So it's better than the mists coming during the day and killing everything. Yes. But it's still not what life was before. We could still strive for something more, can we not? So I like that, as you say, this is what the story is doing, is giving us this choice or playing it out. Safety, tyrannical safety, then danger, the danger of freedom, and then striving for more. I like it.
Yeah.
Themes.
Sazed glanced away. On the table, his fingers had smudged Tindwell's hurriedly written words. That is true. Tindwell sighed softly in the dim room.
Why do you never defend yourself, Sazed?
What defense is there?
There must be some. You apologize and ask forgiveness, but your apparent guilt never seems to change your behavior. Do you never think that, perhaps, if you had been more outspoken, you might be leading the synod? They cast you out because you refused to offer arguments on your own behalf. You're the most contrite rebel I've ever known.
Yeah, so Sazed does seem like Sanderson's going really hard at this whole Sazed has no self-worth in the last couple of chapters, and I'm like, whoa, that's very heavy. I'm not complaining, to be clear, but it's just like you're hitting it very hard.
Well,
You
it's
know
the
what I mean?
truth.
Yeah.
He needs to hit this hard because we've felt it. We've been like reminded of it throughout our knowledge of Sazed, but it frustrates us, and we want him to grow out of it.
Yeah.
And Tyndall is bringing that to the fore. Tyndall is actually mentioning it.
Yeah.
Because nobody else will.
It's the word that I should be saying here is effective.
Mm-hmm.
He's effectively getting me very frustrated with Sazed, which I think is by
Mm-hmm.
design.
Yeah. He's pointing it out. Like, we could point it out in discussion, but he's pointing it out in the world with another important character. So it's paying off. All of that setup is paying off.
Yeah. Especially because by the end of this chapter, to use Ellen's, you can only stumble or stand up. Sazed
Mm-hmm.
here will choose to stand up, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the time to hit that note hard, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sazed didn't respond. I also love the idea of a contrite rebel. That's kind of funny to me.
Yeah. Also, sorry, it serves their whole purpose for him to defend himself. You don't just accept things because of how high the stakes are.
Yeah.
We've been frustrated for that reason as well, not just the personal reason of Zazed not defending himself, but the practical implications of not taking this to its logical conclusion and investigating it because the stakes are so high.
Yeah. Sazed didn't respond. He glanced to the side, seeing her concerned eyes. Beautiful eyes. Foolish thoughts. You've always known that. Some things were meant for others, but never for you. And then we're going to get into a little bit of his hang-ups over what was done to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, see, here's the important thing. I'm wondering how much of what was done to him is what resulted in the lack of self-worth, because surely Sazed is wise enough to understand that what was done to him, he was the victim of something, and that shouldn't diminish his sense of self-worth. I can understand him having these concerns because he's interacting with Tyndall, but I hope that the concerns as they are directed into this area aren't quite as connected to the whole he never defends himself. Because surely the rest of the Terracemen are also like Sazed, or at least for the most part, except for the breeders, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's how they've made it occur. So I don't know. I think it has to be connected just because of the way personality works.
Yeah, I
They all
agree.
they are the character would be affected by that.
Yeah.
It's not like the reason, because that's not how people work either. You don't go, oh, this is the source of your behavior. It's like, yeah, it's a contributing factor. I'm not going to say that if you changed it, it would immediately change him back. It's just part of it. It's part of the character.
Right. I agree.
You were right about the Lord Ruler, Sazed. Perhaps the others would have followed you if you had been just a little more insistent.
Wow. That's not in my book at all, I don't
What
think.
does yours say?
You were right about the Lord Ruler, Sazed. You could have convinced the others to follow you.
Wow.
And yeah. Then I have...
She says perhaps. Yeah.
Then Sazed shook his head. I am not a man from one of your biographies, Tyndall. I am not even really a man.
Yeah, I've got that.
You are a better man than they, Sazed. The frustrating part is, I've never been able to figure out why.
They fell silent. Sazed rose and walked to the window, opening the shutters, letting in the light. Then he extinguished the room's lamp.
I will leave today.
Leave? The armies might not let you pass.
I wasn't going to pass him, Sazed. I plan to visit him. I have given knowledge to young Lord Winter. I need to offer the same aid to his opponents.
And then I'm like, oh shit. You think...
God, what the hell was that?
You think... first off, yeah, rude. Terrible. How dare you? Traitor. But you think Straff's gonna take your advice? Or you think he's gonna put you in chains and force you to serve him? Set might be a bit nicer about it, but you think he's gonna listen? Come on.
Yeah. No. We know that Jastes would want a keeper. Yeah.
True.
But would expect service, not just a bit of assistance.
True. Anyway, betrayal! Ah, I see. I should have realized this.
I doubt they will listen as he has.
Tyndall said, a hint of fondness slipping into her voice. Fondness?
Mm-hmm. Winter is a fine man.
A fine king. Tyndwell didn't respond. She looked at the table with its scattered notations, each drawn from one or another of their copper mines, scribbled in haste, then shown and reread. What was this night, then? This night of study, this night sharing thoughts and discoveries?
Oh, it's like the fact that she looks down at the notes as well, and he thinks of this night. It's like, yeah, they both felt this enjoyable. They went all night, okay? They
Yeah.
nerded out together. This was something to them.
Yep. Very special. She was still beautiful. Auburn hair graying but kept long and straight, face marked by a lifetime of hardship that had not broken her, and eyes, keen eyes with the knowledge and love of learning that only a keeper could claim. I should not consider these things. There is no purpose to them. There never was. You must go, then.
Again, you refuse to argue.
What would be the point of argument? You are a wise and determined person. You must be guided by your own conscience.
Sometimes people only seem determined upon one course because they have been offered no other options.
Take the hint, Sazed.
Yeah, she really does try. And eventually she's just, yeah, we'll see what she does.
Yeah, well, it's great because Sazed's just like, tell me what you want. And she's like, okay, I will tell you what I want. It is really great, actually. So, Sazed turned toward her. The room was quiet, the only sound coming from the courtyard below. Tyndwell sat half in sunlight, her bright robes slowly growing more illuminated as the shadows fell away. She seemed to be implying something he had not expected to ever hear from her.
Oblivious Sazed. It was just leans into more of his lack of confidence, because why would he think of her caring about him or think of her thinking anything good about him?
Yep. I am confused. What of your duty as a keeper?
It is important, but certain occasional exceptions must be allowed. This rubbing you found, well, perhaps it merits further study before I depart.
Sazed watched her, trying to read her eyes. What is it I feel? He wondered, confused, dumbfounded, afraid. That's the line that we referenced earlier about feeling afraid.
Yep.
I cannot be what you wish, Tyndwell. I am not a man.
Woo!
My heart breaks for Sazed here.
Mm-hmm.
And like several episodes back, we had that discussion of, what does it mean to be a man, particularly if you can't have kids. Mm-hmm. And the way it works with Tyndwell and her arguments for why Sazed is perfect for her mesh so wonderfully, I think.
Yeah, it's not an excuse for you, Sazed. Sorry. You can't lean on it here. And look, what I love about this interaction is that it's gone from the subtext to now it's out in the open. The subtext is out in the open.
Yeah.
So it's like he's like, okay, this is what you mean, right? I can't be what you wished, and well, like it's. I love that break in movies, in any story. I love that break from being just talking with the underlying text, and then actually when it just comes to the fore and we're having a frank conversation. It's beautiful.
Yeah. She waved her hand indifferently.
I've had more than enough of men and childbearing over the years, Sazed. I've done my duty to the terrace people. I should like to stay away from them for a time, I think. Part of me resents them for what was done to me.
And I read that and I'm like, ooh. But then I continued to read and like, of course she's like cognizant enough to know that she made her choices and did a great thing and it was a great sacrifice. But it's very human to have all of these muddied emotions.
Yeah, as she says, it's a part of her. It's just because she understands it. Same thing with Sazed having the wisdom to know he doesn't need to reproduce to be a man or to be useful or any of that. He knows logically of his worth, but there are feelings behind it. And those are generally more powerful anyway. So I like this admission. We learning about her. She's actually being vulnerable.
Yes.
In front of him.
He opened his mouth to speak, but she held up a hand.
I know, Sazed. I took that duty upon myself, and am glad for my service, but during the years spent alone, meeting with the keepers only on occasion, I found it frustrating that all their planning seemed to be directed at maintaining their status as a conquered people. I only ever saw one man pushing the synod towards active measures. While they decided the best way to foil the breeders, one man wanted to plot the downfall of the final empire. When I rejoined my people, I found that man still fighting, alone, condemned for fraternizing with thieves and rebels. He quietly accepted his punishment.
I love that we're learning it's exactly what happened to Sazed. Sazed origin story. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
so this is why he got knocked out, because he was being active. And also this is what Tyndall liked about him from the beginning. So actually, as much as Sazed's like, no, that's why she doesn't, or we were as well, we also thought that she doesn't like that he is up against his duties. That's certainly where I thought she was when she first came along, is that she's against Sazed because he's uncouth and whatever. But now it actually turns out she's also a rebel. I love it.
Yes, it's great.
That man went on to free us all.
She took his hand. Sazed sat down astonished.
The men I read about, Sazed, these were not men who sat and planned the best ways to hide. They fought. They sought victory. Sometimes they were reckless, and other men called them fools. Yet when the dice were cast and the bodies counted, they were the men who changed things.
That's so great. She's comparing him to some of the great leaders she's read about and knows so much about.
Yeah, it's coming from her. It's real. And she's holding his hand and saying, listen here, Sazed. Understand that you're a freaking hero. Which is just so much. Oh, it's so good. And yes, like you said, it's coming from her. She knows. She studied these people. And she's like, look, that you're one of them. Ah, so good.
Sunlight entered the room in full, and she sat, cupping his hands in hers. She seemed anxious. Had he ever seen that emotion in her? She was strong, the strongest woman he knew. That couldn't possibly be apprehension he saw in her eyes. Well, she's being vulnerable. She's basically confessing to you.
Yeah. But you see, she's just strong. He's oblivious in that way. But I suppose that also just means that she, as well, she's not, easy to read. So this is her dropping it.
Give me an excuse, Sazed.
I should very much like it if you stayed, Sazed said, one hand in hers, the other resting on the tabletop, fingers trembling slightly. Tyndall raised an eyebrow. And then you just get all of the Ellen's lessons about speaking more commandingly.
Yeah, it's like she does not need to say, I love that she just raises an eyebrow. She's like, really?
Stay. Please. Tyndall smiled.
Very well. You have persuaded me. Let us return to our studies then.
I loved it because it's just like all he needed to do was just say that. Okay, it's not that he had to really persuade her or anything. It's just he had to admit that he wants her there. And I just love the honesty of that.
Yep.
And it's very cute. We didn't need to play around actually with performative arguments. This was a very simple performative thing of just stay, just say you want me to stay. I'll stay. I just want you to. I want to hear you say it. Oh, it's very. I love Brandon Sanderson's romances are great.
Quite. So good. I like these characters so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Elend walked the top of the city wall in the morning light, sword at his hip clicking against the side of the stonework with each step. You almost look like a king, a voice noted. Elend turned as Ham climbed the last few steps up the wall walk. The air was brisk, frost still crystalline in shadows on the stone. Winter was approaching. Perhaps it had arrived, yet Ham wore no cloak, only his usual vest, trousers, and sandals.
His sandals. So it's sandals like what, Roman sort of sandal looking things. Okay, I didn't know about that. I guess I never imagined sandals. I'm not imagining flip flops when you say sandals.
Perhaps. But I suppose he wouldn't need it if he's burning metal. right?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, his feet are strong as.
Yeah. I wonder if he even knows what it's like to be cold. Pewter is such an amazing talent. You say I nearly look like a king. I guess Tyndwell's clothing has done wonders for my image. I didn't mean the clothing. I was talking about that look on your face. How long have you been up here? Hours. How did you find me? The soldiers. They're starting to see you as a commander, Elend. They watch where you are, they stand a little straighter when you're around, polish their weapons if they know you'll be stopping by. So, like I said, I think he's gonna die because he has done it. He has peaked. That he has had his arc, and it's reflected in the world around him.
Yeah, it's not just breeze making people perk up around him, whatever. It's real. And heavy. What? Heavy lies the head, or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
that wears
Like
the
that
crown.
heavy lies the crown, or whatever it is. That's happening. He's a king in every sense. But I was just busy enjoying that. But you're like here with doomsday propositions. Come on, I'm like,
Sorry.
yes, but he's got so much more to do, Dorcas. Okay, so yes, he's gotten to the point. Cool, his arc, but he's now really got to use that skill. Okay, he's leveled up. He still has to have the boss battle. But I suppose what you're saying is he's gonna die in the boss battle.
Oh, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I thought you didn't spend much time with them. Oh, I never said that. I spend lots of time with the soldiers. I just can't be intimidating enough to be their commander. Kelsier always wanted me to be a general. I think that deep down he thought befriending people was inferior to leading them. Perhaps he was right. Men need leaders. I simply don't want to be one of them. Oh, that was totally another aspect of this chapter we didn't front load. Is we do get a lot of good Ham characterization in this chapter, this being the start of that.
True. Yeah, we get a lot of Ham knows stuff about himself. he we suspected these things
Yep.
about him. Vin thought about these things, but he knows himself. He knows what he wants and what he doesn't want, and why he wants what he wants. He's very perceptive. He's not just this trying to be a philosopher. He's a perceptive dude. I love Ham.
Yup. So much. I simply don't want to be one of them. I do, Ellen said, surprised to hear himself say so. That's probably a good thing. You are, after all, king. Kind of. You're still wearing the crown. It felt wrong to go without it. It sounds silly, I know I only wore it for a short time, but people need to know that someone is still in charge, for a few more days at least. This is all stuff we've heard before, but it really shines through that Elend has gone full circle. I know I'm repeating myself now, but this is different than repetitive Sanderson. This is reflected in the change that the character has gone through.
Yeah, it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, though, especially after you carrying on about him dying. this works here for a few more days. Like that line there of just a few more days at least. I'm like, oh, that's how long he has to live.
Oh no.
Mm.
I've scared you so much. I'm scared.
Yeah.
We're all scared. There's a blind read coming up next week. That's always very scary. They continued to walk. In the distance, Elend could see a shadow upon the land. The Third Army had finally arrived in the wake of the refugees it had sent. Their scouts weren't certain why the Kolos force had taken so long to get to Luthadel, but the villagers' sad tale gave a clue. That's very sad.
Ew.
I also want to make note. I think they say that the vote is tomorrow. I might have misread something, but with the assumption that the vote is tomorrow, it occurs to me that if they do vote for Set, with the arrival of the Kolos, it will make it more difficult, I assume, for Set to get his army into the city without there being a ruckus. Would you agree?
Yeah, there's gonna be the shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah. The Kolos had not attacked Straff or Set. They waited. Apparently Jostes had enough control over them to keep them in check, and so they joined the siege, another beast waiting for the opportunity to spring on Luthadel. When you can't have both freedom and safety, which do you choose?
Yeah. That's like the tagline of the whole story.
Yeah. He's hitting the note hard.
Mm.
You seem surprised to realize that you want to be in charge. I just haven't ever voiced the desire before. It sounds so arrogant when I actually say it. I want to be king. I don't want another man to take my place. Not Penrod, not Set, not anyone. The position is mine. This city is mine. And then I'm thinking about all of the times you, Kita, said, oh, I don't like how he says it's my city and my... And I'm like, oh, but it sounds so good now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds righteous, and because he deserves it now.
Yeah,
That's
he's
I
earned
think
it.
that's it. He's earned it, yes.
I don't know if arrogant is the right word, Al. Why do you want to be king? To protect this people, to guard their safety and their rights, but also to make certain that the noblemen don't end up on the wrong end of another rebellion. That's not arrogance. It is, Ham, but it's an understandable arrogance. I don't think a man could lead without it. In fact, I think it's what I've been missing through most of my reign. Arrogance. Self-confidence. A nicer word for the same concept. I can do a better job for this people than another man could. I simply have to find a way to prove that fact to them. And that's him just voicing Tindwill's lessons, but having made them his own.
Yeah, this is the solidified thing. It's coming out, and actually this makes me go, wow, I really appreciate this friendship between him and Ham. Yes, it's been performed the whole book through, but here is where it functions as evidence, a vehicle that shows us Ellen's Ellen's venture, Ellen Ellen's evolution, and it's making me go, "Oh god, you're so right. I'm feeling what you're talking about." Because it's so neatly tied up. Like, look at his
It's a
journey.
bow
Here
tie.
he's at the end. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like the fact that he doesn't use a euphemism. He understands that Ham is saying self-confidence as a nicer way to say it, but he's accepted all of this. It's all self-actualizing, and that's making me go, oh god.
Yep. Yep. I simply have to find a way to prove that fact to them. You will. You're an optimist, Ham. So are you. True, but this job is changing me. Well, if you want to keep the job, we should probably get back to studying. We only have 1 day left. Okay, cool, it was 1 day.
Mm.
Woo!
Mm.
I've read all I can, Ham. I will not take advantage of the law, so there's no reason to search for loopholes, and studying other books looking for inspiration isn't working. I need time to think. Time to walk. Oh, man.
That's an evolution is yeah,
Zane and Dogosaur are going to attack him while he's walking.
But that's also just the evolution as well. He's not sitting in his books and retreating into the knowledge. He's not sitting there and nerding to the point of no return. He actually is now he's now busy being out in the world and thinking for himself, not just reading what other people think about. So
Yeah.
oh yeah, he's reached the top.
They continued to do so. As they did, Elend noticed something out in the distance, a group of enemy soldiers doing something he couldn't distinguish. He waved over one of his men. What is that? The soldier shaded his eyes, looking. Looks like another skirmish between Set's men and Straff's, Your Majesty. Elend raised an eyebrow. That happens often? The soldier shrugged. More and more often lately. Usually the scouting patrols run afoul of each other and get into a conflict, leaving a few bodies behind when they retreat. Nothing big, Your Majesty. Oh, gosh.
I love that voice. Oh, my gosh. Don't die. Don't die, unnamed soldier.
Look, Straff's soldiers have to have a certain personality. Set's soldiers have to have a personality. And Ellen's soldiers have to have a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Elend nodded, dismissing the man. Big enough. Those armies must be as tense as we are. The soldiers can't enjoy remaining so long in a siege, particularly with the winter weather. They were close. The arrival of the Kolos would only cause more chaos. If he shoved right, Straff and Set would be pushed into a head-on battle. I just need a little more time.
Yeah, that makes me just feel like there is no time he's gonna die.
Yeah.
I hate this.
Why doesn't he send an undercover agent to just go piss off one side? Or, like, explode the Kolos out there? I guess no one wants... Because here's the thing. Now that the Kolos are there, I think it's fair to say, as soon as Straff and Set start fighting, the Kolos are going to want to join in.
Yeah.
So I think there's no talking down the Kolos at this point. Maybe... I don't know. There's so many ways this could go.
And I feel like that's all going to be badly anyway. There's just the least bad way it could come out. But
yeah,
shit is going down.
Yep. He first needed to get his throne back. Without that authority, he was nothing, and could do nothing. The problem gnawed at his mind. As the walk continued, something distracted him. This time, something inside the walls rather than out. Ham was right. The soldiers did stand a little taller when Elend approached their posts. They saluted him, and he nodded to them, walking with hand on pommel as Tindwyl had instructed. He's a king.
Mm-hmm.
If I do keep my throne, I owe it to that woman. Of course, she'd chastise him for that thought. She would tell him that he kept his throne because he deserved to, because he was king. In changing himself, he had simply used the resources at hand to overcome his challenges. Yeah, that's probably what she would say, but it's also what you're saying, so good for you.
Yeah, I do. I think it would be arrogance to not notice that it came from her, to not appreciate where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
I like this self-reflection. That is still, that awareness is necessary for him not to be an a-hole.
Yeah, well, we're a couple of paragraphs out from it, but Elend's basically going to think, I'm going to be me. Whatever kind of king I'm going to be, it's going to be influenced by who I am, no one else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that speaks to what you were just saying. He wasn't certain if he'd ever be able to see things that way, but her final lesson to him the day before, he somehow knew that it was her last, had taught him only one new concept. That's such a poetic way of writing that, right? That there was no one mold for kingship. He would not be like the kings of the past any more than he would be like Kelsier.
Oh, that was beautiful.
What?
Sorry, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Any more than he would be like Kelsier. That was like the first hurdle that back in the beginning of the book, like that was his first thing he was obsessed with, is being like Kelsier, it's a nice marker for us to notice. Look, I mean, I know that there's a lot in this chapter that shows us how far he's come, but it's just it's giving us a little glance back. That's like, yeah, remember when he was properly thinking, oh, I can't be like Kelsier, and now look at him now. It's so well done. Just any more than he would be like Kelsier. That just worked so well to make the next line even more powerful. Yeah.
He would be Elend Venture. His roots were in philosophy, so he would be remembered as a scholar. He'd best use that to his advantage, or he wouldn't be remembered at all. No kings could admit their weaknesses, but they were certainly wise to admit their strengths. And what are my strengths? Why should I be the one who rules this city and those around it? Yes, he was a scholar, and an optimist, as Ham had noted. He was no master duelist, though he was improving. He wasn't an excellent diplomat, though his meetings with Straff and Set proved that he could hold his own. What was he? A nobleman who loved the ska. They'd always fascinated him, even before the collapse, before he'd met Vin and the others. It had been one of his pet philosophical puzzles to try to prove them no different from men of noble birth. It sounded idealistic, even a little prim when he thought about it, and if he was truthful, much of his interest in the ska before the collapse had been academic. They had been unknown, and so they had seemed exotic and interesting. He's totally gonna die. This is wrapping him up. This is Brandon Sanderson giving him a send-off. I cannot be convinced otherwise.
So, you know what? You've put it's right. I was too busy enjoying this bow tying, really, to even look at it as a bow tie. Honestly, it is very much that. And having all this self-insights. He's realizing all these things about himself. Yes, we've had these thoughts about him. Now it's all wrapping it up and he's seeing it himself. Oh, God, I don't want to do this next chapter.
No, I don't either.
Because it's ending apart, so that usually is scary.
Very. Oh, God. And then Vin is gonna fall in love with Zane or some shit.
She's gonna just spiral out of control and just run off.
Dark Vin.
Oh, this is the darkest of Vins. She's lost Kelsia and Ellen. What the hell?
Mm-hmm. And soon Dogosaur as well.
Oh, God, no, Dorkus, I can't handle this. Okay, we're almost there.
We could just put the book down now. Never
And
pick it up
write
again.
in.
I wonder what the plantation workers would have thought had anyone told them they were exotic. But then the collapse had come, the rebellion predicted in his books and theories coming to life. His beliefs hadn't been able to continue as mere academic abstractions, and he'd come to know the Ska. Not only Vin and the crew, but the workers and the servants. He'd seen the hope beginning to grow within them. He'd seen the awakening of self-respect and self-worth in the people of the city, and it excited him. He would not abandon them.
But he'll be taken from them.
Yup. That's what I am. An idealist. A melodramatic idealist who, despite his books and learning, never did make a very good nobleman. What? Ham asked, stopping next to him. Elend turned toward him. I've got an idea.
Oh, no. No.
Whatever that idea is, don't do it.
It's the
Just-
end. Oh, gosh.
Predictions for the next chapter. I assume next chapter is the election.
Mm-hmm. But if the next chapter is the election, does he win and then die?
Or does he die during the election?
Mm-hmm.
Or before? Gosh, I don't know. I want to make a prediction. I whatever it is, it's going to be the most dramatic thing Sanderson can think of. I know that for certain, but that feels like an empty statement because we're reading a story. Of course it's going to be dramatic. So let's say it's gonna look good and then it gets interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be my prediction.
He used this word melodramatic right before this chapter ends. Melodramatic idealist. So he's gonna do something melodramatic.
That's true. Oh, that's very true. Oh man, how dramatic would it be for him to be elected and then for Zane to attack right after he's elected and then dies immediately? And then Penrod and Set are just like, what the hell?
Oh no. Sorry, they're all gonna die because Vin will lose her shit.
That too. And then like the fighting is gonna like, okay, Ellen's gonna die. And then Vin's gonna start fighting, and then the fight will carry over to Straff's camp, and then somehow that's going to ignite the Kolos. Yeah,
Zane's
okay.
gonna take Vin away. I know that. So whatever happens, Vin, yeah, maybe Vin loses shit, but eventually she gets taken away by Zane.
Yeah. I feel very confident that the next chapter will be the start of the chemical reaction of an explosion.
Yeah, everything has built up to such a point where it's gonna go down. What part of the next part is gonna be the way that he separates his books into parts. Remember, we ended a part with Kelsia's death, so I'm with you on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
with all that said, excellent chapter.
Excellent book.
Yep.
I love this book. Sorry, I just love it.
I'm enjoying it tremendously. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that darn kitty. Stay tuned for next week's Blind that we're about to read right now. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, thanks, bye.